Well, if it ain't the misfit, where you been hiding at? What's going on, guys? There was on the block back again in the garage, and yep, it's the misfit. So, I'm sure you guys are wondering why you hadn't seen this car in over a year, maybe even longer on the channel. And the reason why is because I was taking care of some upgrades for Mrs. Three Wheels, and then things got busy and changed, and yeah, just life. Essentially, wife drove this car. I've got a video I'll put here at the top of the screen, show you guys a little clip here. This was in 2017, I think it was 2016, 2017. She actually really liked this car. I had gotten her a Corvette before. She had a C3. She wasn't too fond of it just because she couldn't see over the hood. She really liked this car, and because of that, I decided, you know what, let me go ahead and make sure this is a good driver car for her. So I went forward and purchased a front-end suspension from a guy who had a 69 Camaro, which was all brand new. Tubular upper and lower control arms, as you can see there. All new brakes, and a sweet manufacturer steering box. So basically I just replaced the whole subframe that was under the car. So I say all of that because in the process of me swapping the front of the car, which was all new and all fine, I had some 2-inch drop spindles that I got from Speedway years ago. I mean, years. Probably had them for 5, 6, 7, 8 years just sitting on the shelf. They were for a Camaro or a Nova, and I thought one day I'll have a Camaro, 67 to 69. Well, that never came. This car showed up, and I was like, well, I'll just go ahead and put those on there. Let me go ahead and tell you guys something. Do not buy Speedway drop spindles in the ductile iron form. I'll put a picture of them. If you see them, run. It's been a complete nightmare getting the front end of this car fixed. A total and complete nightmare. Now, my thought was if I use drop spindles, it'll lower the car the proper way and keep the suspension geometry and all those things you want to do when you lower a vehicle the correct way. Well, it opened up a nightmare because I got these spindles by themselves, and Speedway, I think, still sells a kit for these. I'll look and see if I can put a link here on the screen for you. The kit includes the drop spindle, the appropriate wheel bearings, and all the stuff that you need, including the disc, brake disc, the caliper, all that stuff. If you get the spindles by themselves, you'll have the wonderful time of sourcing all the individual parts. So the parts include wheel bearings from an S10, a Ford Granada. The caliper is from an S10 or a 3rd gen Camaro, and it took me a long time to source all that. I basically had to go through a bunch of forums because there is no how to install Speedway disc brake spindles. Like, there is not one, but there's several hot rodders that used these in the past and was able to go through and piece together how to get them together. So that's where we're at now. The wheels that I initially had for this car were 18 by 10s. It was a square setup. It was perfect for the original configuration of the suspension. Those didn't work, so I got really frustrated, just sold those wheels, and then I came across these ESRs, which I'm making work with a wheel adapter slash spacer. Not my favorite thing to do, but I'm at the point where if I do not do something with this car, I'm probably going to get rid of it. And because I really don't want to get rid of a car that's actually not in bad shape, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So when I purchased the suspension in the front, the guy had a brand new rear axle, which is not under here. I actually sold the rear axle because it wasn't anything that I needed, but also had drop springs, which is what we're doing today. Putting 2-inch drop springs under the back of the Misfit. So back here in the floor, there are the 2-inch drop springs. These are from Summit. I guess those are shackle extensions. I think there's some under the car, which I might reuse the ones under the car. I'm not sure if I'm going to use these yet or not because I may need to adjust the suspension a little bit. So we'll take a look at that once we get everything apart. And there's all kinds of stuff back here. You see heads, oil pan, transmission. So if you didn't know, the transmission in the 67 Chevelle, that's the original 400 that was in there that was fine until I got over here to the shop after being at the blocks, and then it decided not to move at all. It's like the pump just completely failed. So I messed around with it. I got to move for a little bit, maybe like 5 or 10 seconds, and then just quit moving again. So I'm assuming the pump's just dead. I don't know. It's one of the things with older cars, you really ought to get them out at least once a year to drive around, and that Chevelle had not been out in several years. That's my fault. Can't blame anybody but me. Too busy doing other things instead of focusing on some of the stuff that I have that I could be enjoying. But instead, we swapped the transmission. We took a 204R to replace that because they're about the same size, and the 204R doesn't have 3rd or 4th gear. So now the Chevelle moves, and I can't drive it because it only has 2 gears. Yay. Back to the Nova. Now, for you guys who don't know about the Misfit, this is a Buick Apollo, which I'll show you guys right here. Here it is, Apollo on the door. And somebody asked me about these seats. I've had these eBay seats in this thing for like 3 or 4 years sitting outside in the sun, and they still look brand new. So this thing is set outside for at least 2 years straight, and I don't have any complaints in the seats. They're not faded or anything. I'm pulling them out of this car because I actually found another interior I'm going to put in it completely. But if you're wondering about the $3, or if you're wondering about the $300, used to be $300 racing seats from eBay, they're actually not too bad. I mean, these, yeah, you can see they still look brand new. Still look brand new. Pretty cool. I mean, I have no complaints. They're not worn, faded, nothing. I mean, they still look great. So I'll end up putting them in something else. So for the Apollo and how I got it to look the way I do, this is a 67 to 68 tailpan from a Camaro, which I have a video about this when I swapped it out. So I swapped the tail panel out and then actually shortened it right here, as you can see. Cut that upper section to the lower section. I never did finish this because I had a cab corner from an OBS pickup truck here that I was kind of working in, and then I just didn't really like the way that it was looking. It looked okay, but it just wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. And then we have the Nova front clip, fender. This wiper cowl is from a Pontiac Ventura, which I chose because it has a couple of recesses here that are specific to the Ventura, which is pretty cool. You can't really see them that well because of the cowl hood and the coloration. You can kind of see that one a little bit better. But yeah, it's got vents as well as these other slots here. Thought that was a cool feature Pontiac did. Now this hood is actually Camaro and Nova. As you can see, this hood has been cut. I've got to finish all my welding to finish welding and splicing it together. But right there, that is a 69 Camaro or 68 Camaro cowl hood that has been fused together with the hood of a Nova. So you can see right there, which, like I said, it was rough when I did it. I basically just roughed everything in and re-braced everything so it wouldn't fold up on me, which is actually really rigid. So I don't really have any complaints. I just got to finish my welding work on that. From the top, you can't tell it was a combination job from 2 separate vehicles. You can see there, looks just like it should because all this is Nova and the Camaro portion's in the middle, and it's blended somewhere in here. So I'll finish body working this once I finish the metal work on it, and then it'll have a 2-inch cowl hood. The reason I did this was I found that hood for like 50 bucks, and I couldn't get a steel cowl cheaper than that. So that was the whole reason that we ended up doing that. All right, that's enough yakking to get you caught up on the Misfit. I'm going to turn on the time lapse. We're going to go ahead and get these wheels off with the car in the air, get the springs off, and get ready to drop the rear, because the front, as you can see, is dropped, but the rear is not. So swapping these springs out is pretty simple. You've got some bolts back here on the back. Drill on bolt there, and then a bolt up there in the front, and then the U-bolts, or the bolts to the leaf spring, which are underneath there. Yep, those bolts down there underneath the spring pad. So we'll unbolt those and probably unbolt the shock as well. May leave the shock on there, I don't know. I can probably get it out without removing the shock, but yep. So I'm gonna get some penetrating oil. We're gonna lube all this up and get rid of all these other extra floaty things with some compressed air, and then we'll get ready to pull these springs and put our new springs under here. All right, tools for the job. Got an arsenal of wrenches here. Basically, you're going to need a 9/16, an 11/16, a 5/8, and possibly a 1/2 inch. I recommend, if you can find an offset 3/4 inch wrench as well, or one with a flex head, that'll help you get the upper shackle bolts out. I'll go underneath the car and point out what bolts are what size and what you'll need to remove. All right, starting at the back of the car, work our way to the front. This is the rear shackle. You'll need to remove this. In the case of these are 3/4 inch bolts at the bottom and up there at the top, one on either side of the frame. And sliding forward, you'll have 4 bolts that hold your spring pad, spring perch assembly in. These are 11/16. You remove those. This is a 5/8 bolt that holds in the shock. You'll need to remove that shock bolt. And then up here at the front, you have a spring perch, which is a 9/16 in the front, and there's a 9/16 there. There's one more 9/16 up there. And you'll remove those 3 to get the front bolt out, because otherwise you can't get it out because it's actually trapped inside the unibody there. So you get those 3 bolts out, and then that 3/4 inch bolt on either side, bolt and nut, will slide out, and you can get the spring out of the spring perch. Good time to paint your spring perches if you're taking it down. If they're rusty and crusty, go ahead and sand them, paint them. Good time for that. That's essentially it. So not a whole lot of hardware. Basically, you've got 4 bolts at the front, 4 bolts in the center, and 2 bolts at the back. So there you go. I'm gonna just turn on the time lapse, and hopefully we'll be able to capture all this. Been having issues with my camera overheating. I don't know, maybe it's age. It's not really that hot today, but it's been overheating the past few times I've been making videos, so maybe it's just time for some new equipment. Alright, so I got attacked by some hornets. There's a nest in here, right in that little nook right there. So because of that, I lost some of the footage, but we'll go ahead and continue. I'm going to go ahead and remove this rear shackle back here. That's a 3/4 on the inside and outside. We'll get that unbolted. And I already got the shock mount unbolted up there, if you can see that. That unbolted. And then we'll unbolt the spring perch at the front, unbolt this axle pad and axle mount here in the center, and we'll be able to get this thing out of here. That's the part number for the spring. It's the Summit 7081 GM-2. Yep, that's it. Pair of those. Should come with the rear shackle and the leaf pads, which are right there. So really quick, I thought I had one of these nuts break off of the clip up inside the body. However, it did not break off for me. It broke off in the past, and all I had was the nut floating up in the unibody of the car. So I went to the parts store, and you can still get a 3/8/16 captured nut or U-clips. I'm gonna use one of these. Welded nut's probably preferred, but this will work for now. Probably gonna pull this back down because I've got to replace my spring pads. I've got some traction bars that I will add, so I'll probably end up pulling it down again. But anyway, here's the Dorman part number in case you're wondering, and it is the 3/8/16, and there's only one 3/8/16 in the package. The rest are the 5/16/18. Basically looks like that. So I'm gonna put that in there. That should take care of getting this rebolted together, and then I can move on to the next thing. Alright, I probably missed this portion back here. Basically, you just unbolt and separate that upper and lower section. Just slide those apart, and here's a nut on either side, like that. wire that one's falling out of the body of the car. Anyway, that nut right there, yep, that one. One on this side, one on the opposite side. Separate those and then push them back, slide the bolt out. I put the shackle in up top first, and then I put the shackle through the bottom where the spring is. Sorry, I did not have the camera in that position, and I'm not moving it back there. So you can do it. I have confidence. Last thing I've got is the 4 bolts at the bottom of that spring perch, and we'll get that bolted up, and then that should be it. Well, she's sitting down now. You see that back is definitely sitting down from where it was at. That's tight. I wonder if I'm rubbing. I'm actually not rubbing, which is amazing. That is as wide as I could possibly fit in the back and tuck without rubbing, because well, I probably could go out. Now I've got about that much space right there, and these fenders have been trimmed. They were actually trimmed because of my other wheel setup. So yeah, I trimmed them out a while back. And then this one over here was also trimmed a while back. There's actually more room over here on the driver's side. Probably not uncommon for the Nova Camaro. The rear ends don't ever sit perfectly under the car. I think I'm probably gonna have issues with rubbing over bumps, depending on. Yeah, you can hear it hitting the sidewall there. So I've got some air shocks that I'll probably just pop up a little bit of air in. That way we make sure we don't cut a tire down or anything. Nothing sharp up there. All the sharpness is down here. It'd just be rubbing the inside of the inner fender, which these rear quarters may be changing anyway. So anyway, she is sitting pretty. Sitting pretty low in the back. Of course, the rear fenders on the Nova are shorter than the front fenders are, so it makes it look like it's sitting lower in the back when it's really not. It's probably sitting level. I kind of want 1 more inch in the front now, so I can get that lip to sit like that in the front. Maybe I'll get a 1-inch drop spring and drop it 1 more inch in the front. That'd be cool. Make sure it's sitting nice and even. I don't really like that the rim lip at the back is at the fender and the front one's not. Texas Nova's car looks like that. Nothing wrong with his car, just not my personal preference. He actually may be tucking a little bit more in the back than I am, but I like the fender to be even with the lip of the rim of the wheel. So nonetheless, it looks good. Back's low. That's a 2-inch drop. Hopefully it doesn't drop any more than that, or I'll have to use a shackle and bring it up, because we're already as low as we can possibly go. I could drop another inch in the front. I've got not much space here, but I can always get rid of my inner fenders. Who needs inner fenders anyway? I mean, there's not one on that side. You see that, right? I'll just relocate the batteries to the trunk like I had before. Wouldn't be the first time. Alright, well, I'm going to move this thing outside and then we're going to wrap this one up. I think next time we get back on this thing, we're going to take care of putting my accessories back on the front, because I robbed those off of here, put on the Chevelle so I could get it moving. And I bought a new set of pulleys for this one, because, or pulley accessory brackets, because the Chevelle had a 327, which requires a particular setup. And this one's got, I believe this is from an 88, 87 Corvette, something like that. So we will get the brackets and whatnot bolted up on here. And I guess I may just delete the AC on this car. I don't know. AC would be nice. I need to at least have heat, but we'll get to that another time. For right now, we'll just put some duct tape over the hole and run it. But I gotta get some belts on here so I can get my water pump turning to make sure we keep the engine cool, and then we'll drive this thing around a little bit and see what it'll do. Oh yeah. Before I gotta hook up my power steering as well. Yeah, Sweet Manufacturing steering box down there. I need to go ahead and get that hooked up. So we'll put the power steering pump over here, get the power steering hooked up, and the water pump and alternator, and we should be good. Oh man, it's a hot rod Nova. I was putting some spray paint. Anyway, here she is. That is the stance. It's actually sitting pretty even. The rear fenders are a little bit lower than the front fenders, so that's why it looks like the wheel is closer to the fender, because it physically is. Kind of an illusion, I guess, the way the Nova looks. But anyway, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with it. 2-inch drop springs from Speedway motors, or actually I think those are from Summit Racing. Yeah, those 2-inch drop spindles from Summit Racing worked really well. Bolted right up, no problems. Those Speedway motor drop spindles, that's a completely different story for another day. My name's Erwin. This is 3 Wheels in a Block. We're giving back. The time is taken away. We'll see you soon.